child a picky eater? Does he or she prefer only certain types of food and refuses to try anything new? Or is dinner time just a huge challenge? Most people will tell you that your child will grow out of this phase. But I think there's a little more to picky eating than we know. Hi, this is Jesal and welcome to Little Joy's Unbox Parenting, where we discuss modern parenting in the Indian context. And joining me today is Vidhi Shah. She is a registered dietitian and a child nutritionist. Hi Vidhi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jesal, for having me here.
So first things first, let's understand what is picky eating. How would you describe it?
So very typically, if I were to define picky eating, it's generally between the age group of 2 to 5 years, wherein the children reject food completely, or certain kinds of foods they are rejecting, or certain textures, or probably they are averse to trying new foods completely. So that would be a very textbook kind of definition for picky eating.
Okay.
But if we are looking at a broader perspective now, so I'll just give you an example. If you are going to a food mall, you see 10,000 different varieties of foods that are available in that mall.
Yeah.
But we are still stuck in this epidemic of picky eating where our children are not ready to try new foods. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
So we need to understand that picky eating is not about food.
Okay.
Food and eating are two different things, and we need to address the eating issues rather than the food.
Okay. That's really interesting because as a parent of a 3-year-old who's also a very picky eater, I always thought that the food we are offering him is the problem.
So no, it's not the food that you're offering him, it's the inability to eat and the factors related to that which is the cause of concern.
Okay. So personally for me, this has been my biggest pain point. I don't know what is it about my child at the dinner table that triggers me so much, because he just will not eat vegetables. Like how much ever I try, I bribe him, I get creative, but there will be like 10 days at a stretch where he'll not put a single vegetable in his mouth, and then suddenly he'll start trying things again. So I want to understand, why does this happen?
So Jesal, I get a lot of these with parents. I do consultations with kids who are as young as 6 months, and within a week I have like parents calling up and telling me my child is not eating, he's not being able to gulp. But parents need to understand that eating is not so easy. It's like walking. When your child learns how to walk, turn around, crawl, sit and then walk. Eating is also a process, and it is not just you put it in the mouth and they'll gulp it. So it's not so easy.
I actually never thought of it like that. I thought that once kids turn 6 months, you start their solids and they'll just start eating. So the biggest disappointment for me was, from 6 months to 1.5 years, I think he ate everything.
Yes.
And suddenly decided that now he hates food and now he doesn't want to eat. So why does this happen? Like, what are the reasons why kids become picky eaters?
So there are basically 5 reasons that we are looking at. They are the 5 P's of picky eating. We start with physical reasons, moving on to pain, then there is pressure, then there is power and the process. Starting with physical reasons. Now the physical reasons could be the shape of the mouth, a tongue tie, or posture for that matter.
Okay.
Or it's a premature baby, so the digestive tract is not yet developed.
Okay.
Or it could be an iron deficiency wherein the appetite has dropped. So moving on to the second point, which is pain. So Jesal, if you were not well, would you feel like eating?
No.
If you were in pain?
No.
Yes. So same goes with children. There is a raised amount of food allergies and intolerance, as much as 50% in the last 10 years. If I see, I get 1 in 10 children who have constipation, which leads to a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And these are the 2 main causes, but there are other causes such as irritable bowel syndrome, low stomach acid, reflux, which all leads to a lot of pain while eating.
Understood.
So when the child is looking at the food, what he senses is pain. So food is equal to pain for them. Right?
They make that association.
So when you're offering food, it's like they just don't want to eat it because they know it will cause pain. So that is the second point, which is pain. So let's move on to the third P, which is a process or sensory processing difficulties. we have children who have very overactive senses, okay? And eating involves all 5 senses. Okay, it's the only process which involves all your 5 senses. So there are some kids for whom taste is very strong, so they will not eat something that's too spicy. Right? And some kids have smell, so which is a very strong sense. And they will not eat something that smells a particular way. Okay. You also come to auditory. If the child is sitting in a cafeteria, probably in school, and it's too loud there, he may not want to eat. Or if you give a plate which is too full of food, and the child just cannot process what to eat because that visual thing is too much for him to process. So this is also one of the reasons why the child finds it difficult to eat. So moving on to the 4th P, that is pressure. Now we keep telling our kids to finish their plate. There are children who are hungry. You finish the plate or finish the food and I'll give you an ice cream to eat. Or I don't want to throw this food away. So these are different kinds of pressure tactics that we use on the children. But what we don't realize here is that the signal that is there, we are breaking the signal of hunger and satiety that's happening within the child's brain. So we are breaking that relation, and the child is not understanding when he has to stop. So that's a pressure that we are putting on the child. Last point that we come to is power. So wherein we decide when and what to give to the child, and the child decides how much to eat. So we need to set those boundaries. So these are the 5 P's which are the main reasons for picky eating.
So it's interesting that you mentioned pressure and power, because for me, I think I'm guilty of those 2 P's. I'm usually pressurizing my son to, eat a certain amount of food at a certain amount of time. So in all this, what can parents really do? Are there any solutions? Can we work on something to make fussy eaters actually eat well?
So parents need to be detectives. We start with first focusing on the first 3 P's, that is physical reasons, pain, and the process. In case the child is facing any problems there, you need to go and meet an expert and rule out any issues there. Secondly, what we need to do is space out the meals. Between 2 meals, there should be adequate time so that the child builds an appetite. We have to refrain the child from eating small snacks in between, like maybe a makhana, or sit with the grandparents and eat some chips here and there. All this needs to be avoided so that the child has a good appetite when you're giving the main meal. Okay. So when the child is very hungry, what he'll do is he will eat first thing that comes on the plate. So that's when you give the vegetable or the milk product or the chapati that he's not eating first. Okay, that's the 3rd point. Coming on to the next point, which is have a poker face. So parents should not be very excited when they have made something new for the child, or not too happy when serving the food to the child. You should have a straight face, poker face, and give the food to the child. It is upon them whether they want to eat it or not eat it.
So I think that's great. That's a great point, because what you're saying is essentially leave the emotion out of mealtime.
Correct.
You should not be very excited when you give them food, and they should also not feel the pressure looking at you talk about food.
And coming on to the last point, that is relationship with food. We need to involve the child in the process of cooking food. So right from going to the grocery to buy the food, to cutting, chopping, making the food, so simple food items. That is when the child will be more interested in trying new things and eating what he's made. So those would be the 5 pointers that we can look at.
So I actually do that. I actually let my son come into the kitchen. Obviously, we are supervising him, but we let him play around with atta, or we let him peel some peas or cut paneer, because I also think that we tend to keep young kids away, from the kitchen entirely, and that at some level is going to affect their relationship with food. So also, how do you then encourage kids to eat well? Are there any tips for parents who have fussy eaters?
So when I talk about tips, we start with family meals. You start young. When the child is 1 year old, you start sitting on the make the child sit with the parents or the grandparents on the table, have family meals together. When he sees or he or she sees what others are eating, they are not fussing, especially you have to see the father is not a fussy eater. So they will also want to try the new foods that everybody is eating, and they will eat what everybody is eating. Moving on to the second point would be you start as early as possible. So introduction of different tastes, shapes, textures. So you start as young as 6 months and then build on.
Understood.
Okay, so don't wait till he's 2 years to introduce something. Third point would be space out meals. Okay, so don't allow snacking in between. Okay, introduce new foods, some new vegetable that you want to give along with his favorite food. Okay. So the favorite food is there on the plate, but you are also giving a new food in small quantities. Don't fill up the plate, but a very small quantity of the new food that you want to try. For example, some vegetable that you want to give. Okay, so very small quantity there on the plate. And last technique that you can use is something that is called as food chaining. Okay, now what is food chaining is wherein suppose your child likes a particular texture of foods, for example mashed potatoes. Okay, so you also introduce similar textures of food, like a mashed cauliflower after that, or a mashed sweet potato after that, or not only texture, it could be taste wise as well. So similar tasting foods, so you chain the food like that, and that's how one more way you can introduce new foods and avoid picky eating.
Those are some great tips. And what do you think about repeatedly offering the child the same food that they keep rejecting? Is that a good approach?
I think that's a very effective way to introduce foods. Even research suggests that if you keep multiple times giving the same food again and again, 15 times, 20 times, they do tend to eat that particular food. So you need to encourage them to eat. Please don't force them to eat that particular food. You need to be patient and you need to be persistent. So slow and steady, they will get there.
And what about kids who are fussy eaters? Sometimes parents worry that they'll have some nutritional deficiencies. So how do we tackle those?
So what you need to do is give them a variety in their meals. Give a nutrient dense meal. If you want, you can consult an expert for that. You have a lot of dieticians out there, child nutritionists, who will help you with planning out a meal, what you can give, how to balance the calcium, protein and stuff. So give a proper balanced meal, and last, if required, get them tested and start with supplements. So under the view of an expert, you can start supplements as well.
So let's take some questions from our parenting community. We have one mom who writes in saying how to deal with a child when they throw tantrums at the dining table every day.
Okay, so first of all, don't get angry on the child. Let him calm down and you also stay calm. First 10 minutes, if he's not eating, then he's not going to eat further. Most importantly, you're not going to give alternate meals to the child. He has to eat what everybody is eating. So make sure you're not giving any snacks or alternate meals. So there are no 2-3 meals that have been made, and if not this, he's eating this. If not this, he's eating this. That should not happen. Otherwise, he will keep throwing those tantrums.
So I think the next question is similar. Someone wrote in saying, my 5-year-old knows that his grandparents will give him what he wants, so refuses to eat what is made for everyone.
Okay, so what needs to be done here is a healthy conversation with the grandparents and decide which parent, only one parent needs to take the charge of the child, and others should not be talking in between or giving additional foods for that matter. So there has to be a healthy conversation with the grandparents and explain it to them that what you are looking at.
The next question is, my child is 4 years old and doesn't eat any vegetables. He only eats chicken and eggs. How should I add vegetables in his diet? Because I'm tired of making different food for everyone in the family.
So with vegetables and also fruits, what you can do is be creative, especially with colors. Cut them in different shapes or different textures. Give one vegetable a day, not too much on the plate. So and again, not masking them. Make sure you're giving one whole piece of that particular vegetable on the plate and ask him to just try that a little portion of that food. Okay, so that can be done. Otherwise, don't mask them into your parathas or in your gravies. Make sure he's seeing what he's eating and you're not cheating him with masking the food.
So, is there any respite for parents who have, picky toddlers or, kids that don't eat very well? Does this phase ever end? Because sometimes it can get very overwhelming. You can also feel like you're kind of stuck in this rut where most meal times land up becoming these battles at home. So is there any timeline that, parents should be aware of?
So I think parents need to take a breather. They need to relax. We not call it picky eating. Let's call it preferential eating. Okay, let's have that shift. As adults, we also have a lot of preferences.
Yeah.
We like certain foods, we don't like certain foods. So let's give our child also that space that they prefer eating certain foods and not prefer eating certain foods. For example, my child, he's 13 years now, and up till now he hated eating nuts, and now is the time when he started eating it. So I don't need to tick each and every food group on my chart that he has to eat everything. He will get his proteins, he will get his minerals from other foods. So there I think parents need to relax a little bit.
Also, like, reduce overall anxiety. I think what happens is that parents in our time, all of us have so much access to information available online, and we think that every kid should eat a certain way and every kid should grow and develop a certain way, but also each kid will only eat what they want to eat at that point, and we shouldn't take that personally. It's not on us, it's actually on the child and their preferences, and we have to at some point make that shift and start respecting that.
Each child is different.
Thank you so much, Vidhi, for joining us today. I'm sure our audience found our discussion really helpful.
Thank you so much, Jesal, for having me.
So parents, one of the things I have had to learn over time is to detach emotions from the dinner table. As parents, let's remember that we don't need to make each mealtime a battle. We need to be patient and persistent, and also that this phase is not going to last forever. They're eventually going to love food and let that journey be theirs. If you like this episode, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get regular updates from us. Also download our app or visit our website to shop our products, to consult experts, and also join the parenting community. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.